Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I hope you guys are doing so great and navigating through not only the winter months for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere and staying warm, but also just navigating through life and the world right now. The past couple weeks, I've actually been really sick, so I have not been on here at all, as I have been in bed, sick and still, and really unable to do much of anything. And it's been a nice reprieve because I have been pushing very hard for the last few months. And it was time, I think, to just do absolutely nothing. And that was certainly what was being asked of me. Collectively, we've got a lot of stuff going around right now. I think they're calling this the mystery virus, whatever this was, and it struck my house. And I know a lot of you have probably been avoiding this or have experienced this mystery virus going around lately, whether that's a flu or whatever else it is. And that's what we've been dealing with in my household. But whenever these type of events come up, it really is a good opportunity, at least energetically, to look at what is going on in the world, what is going on collectively for all of us, and what are we tapping into. And I was doing my best to really try and stay out of everything and stay healthy. And I was really feeling very, very good before all this came through. But I realized that I was getting very wrapped up in the collective consciousness and what was happening. And when we do that and we're tapping into energies that are really getting through the collective in a way that creates a lot of fear and disjointedness and feelings of overwhelm, which was coming up a lot, that is when it starts to hit the collective immune system. And every day I was checking in with myself. I was scanning my body. I was running through the emotional and energetic codes. And over again, every time I would check in, I would get the same answer, and that was collective grief. And it was not mine personally, but it was definitely moving through me from a collective standpoint. And the best that I could do to stay out and stay clear of the cyclone happening, it was very challenging not to be tangled up within it as much as I was just trying to remain aware but not entangled. It really did sweep me up. And obviously, what was happening, it was the lungs were being hit hard. I was coughing a lot. So there was a lot of stuff coming out that way, a lot of grief. We hold a lot of grief in our lungs. And I was having GI issues, which means the emotional pieces of being able to process and digest those emotions were also kind of being taken over as well. So I did feel a bit down. There's been a bit of an overwhelm of grief that has been running through. And it's hard not to look at what is happening, especially in the United States. Obviously, there is a lot of very hard things going on across the world and have been for quite some time. It just has been amplified, obviously, closer to home for me. And you feel as though you do feel hopeless. You do feel hopelessness. You feel just rage and hopelessness and just not understanding what's happening at a very basic human level. I don't know. I guess it's because I'm very much a person who is always focused on wanting to have peace and stability in my life and for everybody around the world. And sometimes you see this and go, why? Why is this continuing to happen in the age that we are in? And it also felt very overwhelming for me because of the energetic work that I've been doing in the unseen realms and a lot of energetic work. And I knew this consciously, of course, When I was doing a lot of this energetic work and helping to really pull down a lot of these energetic structures that have been propping this stuff up and allowing it to happen for so long. When we were pulling all this stuff down, it was, I kept getting the message that it's going to take time for this to start showing up in the third dimensional realm. And so when you start to see things going on in the third dimensional realm and it's horrible, you get really, it's almost as though nothing mattered. All the work and all the stuff that you've been doing to assist doesn't matter. But I have to keep reminding myself that, the third dimensional realm, it takes time for things to show up, and they are showing up. The tower is falling. The systems are breaking. All of it is happening. It's just hard to see it happen while people are getting harmed. And sometimes, change doesn't show up as quickly as we want it to be. It's not a timeline that we can control, but grief doesn't always feel like progress either. So, one thing that we've got to remember through these times is when the collective immune system starts to crash, it's not just about some virus running through, okay? Fear is really the root of all of it. And the fear is being weaponized. And each time we witness a spike in illness, we see a wave of chaos, we see a horrifying act magnified through the media landscape, we're really seeing this last grasp of power trying to hold on and trying to distract and trying to dominate one more time before the systems really fail. And the systems are failing. They are. And we are in that kind of final throw of the Tower card in tarot. So this is, these are the last breaths, but they aren't going to be without a fight. And they're certainly not going to be without a lot of turmoil happening. And I think as we move into February, we need to be very prepared for more of this. We are entering a new period in Chinese astrology. I just had a really great year overview with my Chinese astrologer, Beth Grace Astrology. So if you want a really great Chinese astrologer, she's fantastic. And she talks about it from the Chinese astrology lens, which is, this is the fire horse year that we're moving into. This is a double fire year. So there's two different types of fire we're working with this year. And those fires are going to clash with each other. They are energies of opposition. They are energies of amplification. They are energies of competition. And we're already starting to see those type of energies play out in the collective consciousness. And we're seeing this on the global stage for sure. But this year we have to remember is not about passivity. It's not about being passive. It is about claiming your own power. It is about stepping into your sovereignty. And it's not about politeness. It's about being very honest with yourself about what needs to burn down that no longer holds the truth of something that is aligned with a frequency of coherence and a frequency of full embodiment. This year is going to be a really tricky one because if you haven't done the work of really being able to understand what grounded coherence is, meaning you have worked especially hard on staying centered, and when these type of events come up, not getting pulled under. And I just, it happened to me, and I have been doing a lot of work for a lot of years to stay as grounded as possible. But I had to remind myself through this process to unplug from social media. I actually took apps off my phone. And the only way that I'm going to get on social media is by having to re-download the apps and log back into them and make a conscious effort to get on there. I just found myself drowning in watching videos for hours, and I was like, that is not going to be a good thing. I have energy that I need to put in other places where I can be more of a positive output of energy versus getting taken under by energy that's not not of good interest, right? So this year is about how do we stay coherent and how do we stay embodied? Because if we are not careful, the fire horse can have us run away really quickly. And that fire energy can spread and really cause a lot of damage if we're not in a steady state of coherence. So this year is about holding ground, but it's also not about combustion, right? If we don't have direction, if we don't have clear direction, fire with fire is absolutely a recipe for disaster. So we've got to make sure that we're not getting swept up in that energy, but we're utilizing that energy really for alchemy. We're transmuting the energies that are coming our way by utilizing that fire energy to transmute it, but transmute it in a very grounded, very focused, very purposeful way is the best way to approach this coming year. Remember, we're not in 2026 fully. We're not in this new fire horse energy yet. That does not come in until the middle of February. So we are still in the throes of closing out this final 9 year. And the 9 year is about really, closing out these chapters. And before we can step into something brand new and this new starter energy that we're getting this year, we've got to make sure that we are shedding the last bit of skin from the snake year before we can step into that fire horse year. So remember all the key things. If you don't have these in your tool bag, remember to go back to them. Over on Light Alchemy Collective on Patreon, which is the group that I have with my friend Heather Jade Fisher Page, we have been, this whole last year is all tools and techniques about how to ground your energy, shield your energy, breath work to bring you home to your body, discernment and how to navigate through these energies, emotional awareness, energetic hygiene, rituals for coherence, stepping in and remembering your power, all of these very practical tools. And I know that's seems very boring sometimes because a lot of times in the quote spiritual world, we want to have all these expansive experiences. Well, we can't get to expansive experiences unless we're fully embodied. And unless we understand what integrity is and being in a grounded integrity place within ourselves and knowing that we have to initiate that energy from within us, not looking outside of us. So all of the tools and all the things that we have been putting together every month for the last year has been about this very practical and necessary stuff. The last 14 years, Neptune has been in Pisces, and I'll talk about this in a minute. This has been the amplification of spiritual bypassing. This has been the absolute epitome of not doing the actual work, not doing the actual stuff. This has been the decade of ayahuasca ceremonies and cacao ceremonies and spiritual bypassing, and a lot of people in the spiritual quote community who are leaders, perceived leaders in these spiritual communities, not teaching anybody about actual embodiment. It's been about how to escape, how to connect with aliens, how to do all the things without having any coherence or any ability or have been working on yourself from a healing perspective and really doing the very monotonous, very detailed, very painful at times work that you have to do in order to get in a place of coherence. You can't get into coherence if you're constantly fragmented. And the fragmentation is a huge part of things that we see constantly. And so that is why we create a Light Alchemy Collective. It wasn't to get you in a place of disassociation. No, thank you. There's plenty of that out there. It's to get you back in your body and back into coherence with yourself and learning how to actually navigate through your own energy field. So, those are all really important tools that we all need right now. And also, really learning how to pull back, look at things from a 50,000-foot view. There's so much happening right now, so many things happening on an energetic level that you may be tuned into and you may be feeling, you may be experiencing, you may be participating in. And again, it is challenging at times to see what's going on in the third dimensional realm and to not get swept up and frustrated about the things that are being you're seeing in the world. But it's happening. We just have to be patient at this point in time to know that it's coming. It's going to come even faster at us with the energies that are happening in the next month. And we have got to really stay in coherence over chaos as much as we can. Okay. We don't need more reactivity, more fear-fed reactivity, especially. We're at a place where we need more visionary leaders. And those visionary leaders have to be embodied. They have to have clarity. They have to have resonance. So it's about who can be steady, who can steady the boat when everything else burns away and not be scared. And that's a return really to source resonance. It's the only frequency that will last at all, is completely source resonance. So those of you who are choosing love, choosing truth, choosing embodiment over the noise and the fear or the performance, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to do the day-to-day work that you have to do, that you have to show up and do. And thank you for assisting at this time. Because I think that there's a lot of us who feel, what's it all for? What are we doing here? And we're each doing our parts. And it takes it takes a village beyond a village to make these changes happen. And we are all here to make those changes. And it starts with each of us within ourselves, first and foremost, before anything else can change on the exterior. So keep coming home to yourself and keep working on yourself. Okay, so we have a lot going on. I am recording this on Sunday, January 25th, and tomorrow, January 26th, we have our first big shift that is happening over the next month. February and March are very dynamic energies. And again, this fire horse energy is really going to be about competition. It is going to be about amplification of egos. There's a lot of fiery energy. If any of you are familiar with what was going on in the 1960s in the country, especially in the United States, we have a lot of that type of energy that's going to be amplified right now. There's a lot of more protests that are going to be happening, a lot more big movements that are going to be happening across the globe. And there's several examples that have been happening across the globe of regimes being toppled. And this isn't coming from, generations that have been here a while. This is coming from the very young generations. The younger people are really coming into their own. And now that we are in this Aquarian age and we're in this period 9 cycle for the next 18 years, we are going to see an amplification of that type of very in your face pushback of authority that's going to happen. And it's going to be coming from a lot of these younger generations really starting to rise up and push back. So in February, we are entering this whole new era. We have Saturn leaving Pisces, where it's been for about the last 3.5 years, and it's going to move into Aries. So this is one of the first of 3 outer planets that are moving from water and earth signs into air and fire signs. So again, we have this fire amplification, and then we have this air energy. When air and fire come together, it is very big. These two things can be dangerous when they get combined together, but we definitely know that it's the amplification of these energies. Anybody who remembers the LA fires that happened in January of last year, January, February of last year, you know that the reason that these fires really spread is because the winds were so high. And they kept skipping and jumping and moving to different places, and there would be another one pop up. So this is the type of energy I'm talking about. It is very fast moving, it is very unpredictable energy, and it is explosive. It is dangerous and explosive. It can be. We need to harness this energy in a different way. So controlled fire is very, very useful. If you've ever been to a controlled burn, it is a crazy thing to go to. I've been to a controlled burn of a field before, and man, it's scary because that fire goes so fast, it burns so quickly, and the heat from that fire is so intensified, and you feel like you're gonna have your face melt off if you're anywhere even close to it. But when it's controlled in that sense, when you control the energy and you control the fire, it creates this beautiful burn off. And then all of this new life starts to emerge from this burnt off place. It's crazy. But all of this new life is able to come up now and grow in a different way, in a more beautiful way, in a more robust way. So we need to have these controlled burns from time to time to be able to regenerate new things. And this is really the energy that we're in. A controlled fire is very, very useful in helping us restart and rebirth something brand new. And out of control fire is just nothing but chaos and destruction. So again, coming back to how do we control the fire? How do we make sure it's in a controlled state? That is what you need to do for yourself. Is you're the person controlling the fire. And so are you going to have a controlled burn, or are you going to have a chaotic mess? That's really up to each of us. So Saturn going from Pisces into Aries, Saturn's going to give us restriction. It's going to give us a little bit more control. It's very serious energy that's coming into Aries. Aries is about the embodiment. This is the start of the zodiac completely. This is about your body. This is about the embodiment, but it's energy that wants to get things moving. It wants to go. It wants to go fast. The good news about Saturn is that it controls that a little bit, so it tones it down just a little bit, but we're going to have a lot more lessons and a lot more teachings and a lot more discipline that has to be applied in order to make sure that we don't get out of control. Aries is an energy that doesn't really have a lot of plans. It kind of comes out of the gate. It doesn't really look around. It doesn't scan the environment. It doesn't have any sort of sense of what's happening. It just wants to go, and it wants to get to its destination. Saturn hopefully is going to pull this back a little bit. It's going to keep us a little bit more controlled, but we've got to take the discipline ourselves. We have to be the ones to be disciplined and to make sure that we are controlling that fire as best we can. So Saturn's going to enter Aries on February 13th after Neptune enters Aries on January 26th. So we've got the planet of no boundaries, Neptune. We got the planet of not having any sort of a little bit of cloudiness, spiritual. This is a spiritual plane. Neptune's a spiritual plane. It's a little cloudy. It has no boundaries. Saturn has the boundaries. So these two energies, Neptune going into Aries on January 26th and Saturn entering Aries on February 13th, are going to be two very interesting energies coming together. Now, they've been together in Pisces. We've been breaking down a lot of the illusions in Pisces over the past few years. So Saturn's given us a lot more discipline with Neptune running through Pisces for the last 14 years, creating all of this energetic confusion, a lot of the spiritual woo-woo stuff that I was talking about. So these two moving into Aries is a totally different energy for the collective. Very important. We also have a full moon in Leo in February, on February 1st. So that full moon is leading up, happening on the 17th. So we're already in the eclipse window. Okay. let's just kind of lay this out. We're already in this eclipse window. We've got this full moon in Leo that could be very over the top because Leo is very over the top energy. It's in opposition to Aquarius, where you have a lineup of all of these planets in Aquarius that have just started to move over Pluto. So we just have gone through all these personal planets moving over Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 18 years. That's the whole period 9 in Chinese astrology. This is the burning down of all the old structures and bringing something brand new that works for the collective into the forefront. So we have all of this energy that's been going over Aquarius. And now we've got the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees on the 17th. This is going to be really amplifying a lot of this rebellion energy. Eclipses, again, bring sudden and unexpected changes to the collective. They are disruptive energies. So we are going to have more disruptive energy happening around the 17th. Then Saturn and Neptune are going to come together in a conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. This is completely a restart energy, completely restarting. And it's on the world axis point. You can pretty much look up any astrologer, and I'm not an astrologer who does any predictive astrology. That's not really what I do. But this is a very important point in our history. And to me, this is really kicking off the revolution. This is the thing that is helping to kickstart whatever it is that we are bringing in. You can call this New Earth. I call this the harmonic point. And I'll be talking much more about the harmonic point in the next months. And all the information and the work that I've been doing in the unseen realms for the past 6 years, and what this really means for all of us. This is big. And again, it's not going to be without seeing a lot of chaos happen. But again, it's our job to stay embodied, stay centered, stay focused, and know that we have to be the ones to set the vision and hold the vision for what it is that we want. And I think all of us are kind of just burned out and tired of all this chaotic stuff happening. I think it's definitely a point where we are all at a pivot point where we want something totally different. And, for me, that's a return back to coherence. That's a return back to source coherence and making sure that we're operating really how we should be operating, from a much higher level of consciousness and cooperation and harmony. So February 20th is going to be a massive shift energetically. We may not see some explosive energy that day, but we know that we're starting something. We're at a pivot point. We're at a fork in the road, and that is going to be a place for a brand new direction. So you'll hear a lot more about this happening. Every astrologer on social media will be talking about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that will happen on the 20th. Then Mercury retrograde starts in Pisces on February 25th. And then we are going to have on February 27th, this is the other date that a lot of people are talking about, Mars is going to be in Aquarius, and it's going to be squaring Uranus in Taurus. And remember, Uranus is getting ready to change signs as well in the next couple months. And it's going from Taurus, where it's been really focused on the financial systems, on our structures. This is very much about the earth. It's going to move into Gemini instead, which means we're going to have a lot of revelation and a lot of kind of unexpected changes happening within how we think and how we communicate. So this is really kind of exciting in a way that we're going to have this Mars in Aquarius, which is about the future, and this, take charge energy about how we want the future to look, bumping up against this unexpected energy in what this current embodied structure looks like is going to be a really interesting time, be an interesting day when this happens. So again, we can expect a lot of different things to occur on that day. And I think the biggest thing to say about February is it's definitely wild card energy. And the more that we move into 2026, the wild card energy could be very prominent. And again, we have to keep coming back to how do we fully embody, how do we stay more grounded? How do we energetically cleanse? How do we practice good hygiene, energetic hygiene every day? How do we connect more with nature? How do we connect more with people who help you remind you who you are? And how do we always choose coherence over chaos? That is the big era of what we're really moving into. And it's this chaotic energy that the energetic mastery really comes into play. And if you've been doing the work and you've been mastering your own energy, this is where we can hold steady. And I think this whole cycle, especially this last couple of weeks and what I've been in, has been this reinforcing energy for myself to say, you've been doing all this stuff. I just did a 40-day total reset, energetic reset, physical reset. I mean, whole bit. I was doing everything. For 40 days, I was doing a very structured routine of Kundalini yoga, of working out every day, of eating no sugar, all this stuff. Been really, really disciplined. And it was just a reminder to get back to that discipline, because this is the era of those who can hold steady are going to help burn away the stuff without chaos. So this is the key, I think, for all of us. And we always have to just remember to surrender and trust the timing. And I know it's very challenging when things are going on to not get impatient. I have been very impatient looking at stuff going on. And then I've had to realize I've had so much experience knowing that when I surrender and I trust and I just go with the flow versus trying to push against anything or trying to force a change, none of that's going to happen, because I have to be the center point. And as the center point, everything else shifts around you. So this is key, is again, grounded coherence presence is the most important thing we can all do right now. So with this energy that's coming up in February, just remember, please don't get wrapped up in all of it. Take a break from the things that are pulling your attention, pulling your energy, and know that you can really come back to yourself in these times, and that you are in charge of your reaction to things. You're in charge of how you interact with it. You're in charge of how things change. And when we each make the conscious choice to make the change for ourselves, then everything around us begins to shift. And we just need more of us to do the work, and more of us to show up, and more of us to make that commitment that we're going to make the change from within. Because all this energy can shift in totally different ways. And it's a matter of how we consciously harness that energy to shift it. So we can be in the all doom and gloom, or we can be in the controlled alchemy of making this energy work for all of us. Take care of yourselves.